Hi there, Chris Delion here of HomeTeamGameDev.com. Thanks for being with me yesterday on my video that was kind of, I realized, all over the place. Talking about that today. But as promised yesterday, I'm going to start dividing up my purposes of my videos a little better. Still kind of in a shuffle. But today I want to talk about self-command.com in a very particular way. I'm going to share, first of all, a high level of the technique. In case you never checked out the material, I'm going to tell you the gist. So basically you can start doing it even without that material, but I'll tell you why you should anyway. I'm going to talk to a couple of benefits of it, and particularly in the context of basically last video you saw from yesterday as an example of why it's so important and why I'm using it right now. So at a high level, the main technique, and granted again, there's lots of details about how we do this well and case studies we look at and ways of thinking that make it useful and how we pick the tasks, but it consists of this. Self-command.com is an audio program that walks you through getting a whiteboard, an eraser, a dry erase marker, and you can do this with a piece of paper. I also mentioned I can use it with a notepad if you don't want to do the whiteboard thing. But I wrote on here right now, I made a YouTube video by 3:30 p.m. At the time I'm recording this, it's 3:10 p.m. I gave myself 20 minutes to do this task, deciding as part of that I'm going to scale the amount of takes I give myself, the amount of writing I'm going to give myself, the amount of editing time I'll give myself, the amount of upload time, thumbnail time, all that's going to fit into by 3:30. This video is going online. And here's a couple things that helps me do. One, it helps me narrow down. I've got, as you saw yesterday, a lot of different hats that I wear, a lot of different organizations I work with. Home Team is my company. IGDA LA, I'm our chair for the local chapter. Indiecade, I'm our alumni lead, used to be our speaker organizer, also hoping to move them online this year for Indiecade Anywhere, part of what I was talking about yesterday. And outside of that, volunteer with high schools and got my own personal life stuff to manage, my various social networks and so on, got these YouTube videos to deal with. Any given time, got my new product I'm developing, like my translation of this thing, mashup of translations. But when I put something on the whiteboard, it means that I've consciously told myself, I've been able to separate my producer intention of what am I doing from doing it. And already that means that I can keep myself grounded. I like to think of it a little bit like, I don't think there's an example in the audiobook, but you picture when you were a kid growing up in the bowling alley and they'd put the bumpers out so the bowling ball would just bounce right back in. It's this really nice, easy physical way, separate from what I like about a physical thing, right? I can't minimize it, I won't close it, I don't just tuck it off screen on a different screen space. It's there and I can't ignore it. It's in my physical space. And part of the nice thing about having a habit of doing this too is that if I want to switch tasks, and I can, or if I want to change the amount of time I give myself, and I can, it's going to be a conscious decision because I have to get my hands involved. It's not just this nebulous thing where in my head I can tell myself I'm working on a certain thing, I don't know, it could be done by 2:30, but then the whole day is gone, I found myself tickling other things and poking other stuff, and still didn't actually get a YouTube video out for a specific purpose. And so it's a nice way to keep us grounded on a specific thing we intended to do. And at a high level, again, you could do that right now without even having my material. Part of why the material is there on self-command.com with a way to get it for free / in exchange for helping people out who need help is that there are so many other details in how we do it. But that's the one thing I'll point today of when you have a lot of things pulling at your attention, it can help ground you in the one you intend to do now. And why that's so important with all that's going on in the world right now is that when we are working from home, which obviously is now many more of us than it was 2 months ago, we lose the distance that we used to have from when I'm in the school library, I do this. When I'm in the classroom, I do that. When I'm in the office, I do this. When I'm in a Starbucks, I'm working on my novel. Now it's kind of always sitting around our house somewhere, or our apartment, or our parents' home, or wherever we're currently staying, our significant other's place. It's a nice way to be able to consciously switch. Okay, I know I'm at the same desk. I know I'm on the same computer, the same everything. An easy way to tell ourselves within some intentionality, I gave myself this time limit to do this particular task, and it helps us keep on track to do it. So at a high level, that's a benefit of it. But now that we've kind of explained the high level, the real point I want to make today about a benefit of it is that when we're doing it, it's got this nice benefit of giving ourselves credit for stuff that had to happen to move forward. There's all kinds of tasks that wind up chewing up our time, chewing up our energy, and it frustrates us because it feels like it wasn't the thing I meant to do. So a common example, since I train game developers, what I do with Home Team Game Dev, is that quite often, okay, I want to program. I want to build this game. I figured out there's a game I want to build, scheduled a meeting with me, and okay, but I didn't actually spend my day programming because I spent my day struggling with my IDE, configuring some problem with Visual Studio, configuring some issue with Unity, configuring something about I was trying to get a linter or a local debugging environment working with JavaScript, or I couldn't figure out a local server on my operating system. And we end up fixing these problems that aren't the problem we were targeting, but they are the problem. They're a step towards solving that problem. And so that's where there's a little technique you'll also hear in that self-command.com. So, okay, here's the thing I meant to do. But let's say that as part of this, so I had some real hardware problems this morning. My mic boom broke. My Yeti is currently sitting back on its base. And I've added some new layers to my technology pipeline, right? So I'm using a DSLR to record as if it's a webcam. I've got a layer of software in there. I'm using 2 pieces of software. I've got OBS acting as a compression filter on my mic, feeding it through audio loop to go back through my screen recorder on ScreenFlow. There's some layers where stuff can break. Let's say I figure out as part of this, like, oh shoot, my mic is just not working. Part of why I tend to only write on the top half is I can put a line and I can put my more specific task. I got the mic working by 3:20 p.m. Remembering my initial time target was 3:30. It says I want to give myself 5 minutes to solve this problem. And it does 2 things, right? One, it temporarily says that that is the okay thing for me to do. That's not a waste of time. That's not derailing. That's not a misuse of time. There's no way forward besides addressing that problem. The other nice thing it does, like I say, often we can scale the time we want to give ourselves something, right? I used to spend, when I was a graduate student, 6 months making a video. I'd do a bunch of research. I would workshop it at different sort of chances I could give the talk. I would refine my slides. I'd run my professors. I would make a video. That's not really suitable for what a YouTube video is. And now I've realized I can give myself a 30-minute window, a 10-minute window, a 20-minute window, make a video, get one out for the day, communicate with my people. That's you. And at the same time, it can be more worthwhile if I give it the time that it's appropriate for and not disproportionately sink time into it, as ultimately those research videos didn't get a lot of views, wasn't really a good match for the platform. There's other places to put the kind of presentation. So, gave myself till 3:20. The other thing that can mean is that becomes my fallback time to myself to say, hey, you know what? It's 3:21. That's fine. 3:22. That's fine. 3:25. This is starting to eat more time than I decided it was worth. Maybe I have a fallback plan. This is a Samsung Q2U. I decide my Blue Yeti thing was having a problem, or I decide my compression step through OBS was having a problem, and I decide I'm just going to bypass it. It says the show must go on. It says I have the rest of my life to get back to. I have other orgs that need my attention. I have other customers that need my attention. I have my business has other things I need to be doing. I got people who applied who I need to go through his application list and reach out to. It helps us decide that this was the time I decided it's worth. And that number can't move on us. It's not part of this nebulous thing in our mind where we just slosh it around and pretend that we're making progress. And then again, what happens is day after day, blur together, and we've got nothing to show for it. And then we wonder, how did those weeks happen and I got nothing to show? And it's because we allowed something to either grow outside of its proportion or multitask so badly that none of it's moving forward on the thing we intended. So, okay, I fixed my mic. I erase it. I'm back to my initial task. Video up by 3:30 p.m. And again, it lets me engage with consciously erasing it when I'm done. Physically, I've decided that I have satisfied this criteria to go back to it. But then most importantly, it is acknowledging like this was a thing there was no shortcut past. This was a thing that it had to happen to do it. And we have this thing happen all the time too with my one-on-one training clients, which now I've only got about half dozen left for the most part, work with people now on home team. But you know, there's a guy I work with who's doing a pretty complex and sophisticated and awesome RPG battle game. And sometimes we'll meet and he has a very particular bug in mind we want to work on. In the process of trying to work on that, we spot another bug that's not only also a bug, but basically has to be fixed before we can even fix this other one. We find out there's something deeper in the system that we didn't really surface until we started prodding and debugging and troubleshooting and visualizing some information. And that again helps us acknowledge this is a real thing that has to happen. This isn't time wasted. This isn't time that's going nowhere. It's solving this step that we didn't even realize was a needed step until we were doing it. And that same thing can take so many different forms to help us out on staying grounded, on staying focused, on following our own instructions. One of the things we talk about in that self-command.com material is switching between the producer hat and implementer hat, of having thought about what's the right thing to do, what's the right time to give myself to do it, and then trusting myself from half an hour ago or an hour ago or 2 hours ago that from everything I knew at the time, that was the right thing to do. So right now, I'm not second guessing that. I'm able to focus my full attention and time on doing this thing right now. With like I say, without the distraction of wondering, should I be doing something else? And one of the things we'll talk about eventually as we keep going in these video series related to self-command.com stuff is there's another layer above that. On that same page, self-command.com, you'll see a video at the bottom about how I use Trello cards to spread out our projects. Just recently, I think yesterday, I helped 2 project leads and home team plan out their schedules for like 5-month projects. And one of the things we always talk about when we're doing that, when we're spreading out these calendar items across weekly Trello cards, building out a schedule from, okay, we want this big thing to exist. The only way big stuff happens is by small pieces adding up, one whiteboard sitting at a time, right? Well, in those cases, we start putting down a card for something that AI needs to do. And, you know, AI, we tend to develop in 3 different phases, right? AI first, it needs to act randomly, meaning it can call the right functions to operate. Secondly, it needs to be too good, meaning it knows how to do the math or the computation to reach its destination or hit its target. But then third, because computers have infinite precision, infinitely fast math, really good at angles and reaction time, we third have to make it fail like a person. There's 3 separate layers to doing game AI, spread across 3 different weeks for any given project doing it. But the important part is that when we put that card on the calendar, we're not solving it yet. We're not thinking about it yet at all. We aren't going any deeper than to say, you know what, we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it in July, or whenever we put it in the schedule, which lets me know, once again, instead of having my mental funnel be all this stuff being shoved down in parallel, it says, no, I'm doing exactly one thing at a time. That's the way anything ever gets done. And as soon as I'm trying to spread myself too thin across too many things, it's time to reach for my whiteboard and say, I'm going to give myself permission to do one thing, because if my day ends and I've done one thing, I've done 2 things, I've done 3 things, but I've done them, I've finished them. How much better that is for me than if I feel like I moved forward 3 or 5 or 10% on 24 tasks across 5 different organizations. That doesn't fly, it doesn't get us anywhere. I mean, another way I still think about this too to this day is probably a dumb analogy, but it's a simple one for, you know, like myself, probably been playing a lot of games over the years. And a lot of games online, when you're playing first-person shooter, deathmatch, team stuff, whatever, you don't get points for dealing damage to the other team. You get points for finishing the kill, for getting the frag, for getting the point for the team. And it's a case where it really helps our morale to be able to knock some things out, to take it completely off the to-do list, to cross it off, to have chopped it into a thing I can do in one sitting, to then have moved past it, and it doesn't keep hanging on to us, because what really starts to grind down our attention and wear us out and exhaust us, even when we're not actually being productive, is when we have so many open threads that we could be attacking, but we can't decide which, all of which feel like they're not finished. We're not giving ourselves that satisfaction of moving forward from it. The same reason why when we set our deadlines, even though it's like on a 5-month schedule, when we say we're releasing a game in Home Team, we release the game that day. We've released this now for 90 games out of HomeTeamGameDev.com, because we know that if we don't condition ourselves to see that I got to make compromises, trade-offs, and choices about when that game is going to be live, suddenly a game that was worth spending 3 months on, or 5 months on, or 2 months on, part-time, is not worth spending a year or 2 on. And so it's important that before we start it, we decide how much time is this task worth, what task am I doing, and then from there we can granularly break it down into what ultimately is one sitting at a time going on the whiteboard. For more information about that, check out self-command.com. I'll be doing some more videos kind of like this one, talking about rehashing some fundamental things about the technique, revisiting some questions I get, sharing some discoveries from working with Home Team members and other people that I work with who use techniques from self-command.com. But otherwise, I encourage you to check it out. As part of what some other videos are going to be about recently, is when I mention some things like focusing on exactly one task at a time, that's something that really fundamentally comes up as a recurring theme in Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, in Stoicism, as to the importance of accepting the things that we can't do, to help prioritize attention on what we can do, and to do that thing in a way that knowing that we're doing the right thing, that the rest of the world, while we're doing this, we got to give it our full attention, and just how much more tranquil life can be if it's one thing after a time, one thing after another that we can do something about, that we're doing something about, that we're making the right choices about. And it's not just about productivity, it's not just about cranking out widgets, it's not just about finishing projects, but it has it as a side effect. For me, it's a self-care thing. It's a clarity of, I figured out what I could do today. I did it. And even if those things were smaller than I wanted them to be, even if they were more incremental or granular than I wanted them to be, the way I completed that text, I've now finished my 2 passes of edits. Now, H. Trayford, thank you for your amazing editing help. He's still, I think, wrapping up the last third of the book on editing from his end. But, you know, I set myself these whiteboard things that would do 2 pages of editing a day and then 5 pages of going back through it after I'd merged up those things, but consistent goals for over 100 days in a row. And I'd planned out ahead of time that if I did that, I could have this banged out in a series of months, and we're getting there. That audio is going to be available soon, that text is going to be available soon, and just because I told myself, right now, here's what I'm focusing on till this time, each day, one after another. More to share about that in the time ahead, but thanks for being with me today. If you don't have it yet, I encourage you going to self-command.com. Check out the material. Again, I know I'm got the high level today, you got the gist of it. There's a lot of sort of devil in the details, nitty-gritty about ways of thinking that help it work for you, about examples of where we use it, about some common ways to mix it up that if you're not aware of, I mean, there's a reason why it's 5 hours of material, right? If you're not aware of it, you don't get the results you want out of it, and then suddenly you give up on it when really it's a generalizable technique that can help a lot of people out. That's why I'm out here trying to get more people to do it. And it's also why I put all that work into this other material that will be soon going out as a free included update. People already have self-command.com. That's it for the day. Thanks for being here. Check out self-command.com. Get that material if you don't have it yet. See y'all soon.